Hello, happy Sunday. Welcome to the Sunday Mindset Chat. I'll make it a fireside chat today. I got my little candle going here and excited about today's topic, all about how we can reprogram our subconscious mind. So, this is going to be part two from our last conversation where we were talking about the subconscious mind, how it is in control. So we'll begin with a little bit of a recap on why we are so interested in the subconscious mind and what it can do for us or what it is doing in our lives, and then 7 ways for us to reprogram our subconscious mind so that we can take control of what is controlling us. I hope you guys have all had a great week. Do me a favor and let me know in the chat where you are joining me from. If you are a part of the AstroFlipping community, write Astro in the chat. If you are a part of the Sub 2 community, write a peace sign or a Sub 2 in the chat. If you are part of my general YouTube community, put a YT in the chat. I just want to get a good idea of where all of you are joining me from today. And I'm super grateful that you're here. Beautiful. Hello, Danielle, David, Beth, Judith. Awesome. So many of you are from the Astro community. Awesome. How fun is that? It's been a beautiful week. And lots to go over today. So I'm also going to be calling and putting a link in the chat. If there are any questions in regards to what we've been discussing, I'll be bringing on 1 or 2 of you today before we are done with the hour. What's up, Mr. Pickle? How you doing, Justin? Great to have you out here. Beautiful. Oh, we got folks from the Flipping Mastery community. My man, Jerry Norton. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What's up, Low Rotor? What's your name, brother? Tell me your name in the chat as well. If you do have a funny YouTube name, I'd love to know who you are. What's up, Jay? Awesome. Well, before we dive in, we'll begin this stream the way I would any of these, and that's with a prayer. Because I truly believe that anything and everything that we want or need in our life finds its way to us through our source when we ask and take steps towards it. If this bothers you at all, just mute me for the next 30 seconds because I'm going to go do it anyways. But if you'd like to join me, here we go. God, we love you so much, Lord. Thank you for today. Thank you for opening all of our eyes and giving us breath, for giving us the minds to connect and communicate with each other. Lord, we're so grateful for that. God, we ask that you guide each of us to your purpose for our lives, so that the steps we take are your steps, the words we speak, your words, the actions we take, your actions. God, we ask that you guide us to those individuals that will be of benefit to us, either through a financial gain or a lesson we need to learn. And we also ask that you deflect us from those individuals that would waste our time or bring us harm. Lord, for any of us here that are in need of any additional understanding of the concepts that we go over here, we just pray for perfect clarity in our minds. And for anyone suffering through any physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual pain, we just pray for perfect healing in our lives. And Lord, it is with humble hearts, and in your heavenly name we pray. Amen. All right, let's rock and roll. Okay, so subconscious mind, right? It is a doozy, and it is in control of 95% of what is going on with us throughout the day. Now, science has researched it and confirmed that only 5% of what we are doing in an actual given 24 hours is a conscious product, all right? Meaning 5% of our day, we are consciously in control. 95% of our day, the subconscious mind is in control. And so it's really important to understand what the subconscious mind is being programmed with. Now, just to recap last week's conversation, the subconscious mind is pretty much entirely programmed between the ages of birth to 7 years old, right? From the ages of birth to 7 years old. And it is typically programmed through observation and understanding of our environment from early childhood. And so our parents, our other children that we're around, so the daycare and whatnot that we're beside or that we're attending, if we're in daycare, the friends and maybe some relatives, whatever it is that is being placed in our environment between the ages of birth to 7 years old is pretty well controlling what is happening in our adult lives. And for many of us, that is problematic because if you did not have the best childhood environment, or if your parents were ill equipped to really understand how powerful their behavior and their interactions with you are and were, there can be some pretty damaging, disempowering programs being written into that subconscious programming. Now, just like a computer, if you were to bring home a new computer from your local computer store, the Apple store, or wherever you're buying your stuff, and you turn your computer on, if there is no operating system within that computer, it's not going to do anything, right? It's just going to be there. But once you upload or download or install an operating system, that's how you can start to interact with the computer and how the computer interacts with its environment. And so just like a computer, our subconscious mind's programming is essential in how we operate in the world. Now, if you think about it, between the ages of birth to 7 years old, there is a lot of corrective fear-based programming and fear-based stimulus that is being programmed into the mind, right? Especially for parents who might be first, where it might be their first child, there is a lot of fear, right? There's a lot of fear of the child being hurt, the child having some kind of issues. And so there's a lot of protective, overprotective behavior that is being exhibited and absorbed and learned by that child. A lot of times we hear parents constantly correcting. And if you've ever been around a helicopter parent and you watch how they operate with their child, you might look at it and think, wow, what a protective, loving parent that is. They're so worried about their child bumping into things or picking stuff up or playing or touching stuff that could potentially be a danger or harmful. And so they're constantly trying to correct and monitor and correct and change the behavior of that child. A lot of times the words that are being used are no and stop and wait. And these kinds of words are, again, teaching the child that there's a lot of danger in the world, that everything is dangerous around them, that even in the environment that they're being placed in, right? If you think about it, how often when you are watching a new parent interact with their child, and if their child is moving around a space, how often do you see that parent trying to really, really be extremely, almost aggressively corrective of making sure that that kid is not touching things that could potentially harm them or hurt them? And it's very, very, very stressful. It's stressful on the parent, but it's even more stressful on that child. And not only through the words that are being spoken, but the facial expressions and the tone, as well as the underlying energy of those words and how that communication is being disseminated to that child, becomes very fear-based. And so that initial programming that's happening with that child is very much fear-centered. Now, how many of you guys can relate to seeing that or had parents that you know were very overprotective or potentially very fear-centered? If that is something that you have experienced with or something that you have noticed is a part of your now life, where you are tending to fall into fight or flight, you can pretty much rest assured that there was a good chance that your parents were very frightened as you were growing up. Now, again, this isn't to chastise anybody or make people wrong, right? It's not about the fact that our parents did a bad job or that, these parents are doing a bad job. That's not at all what I'm trying to say. We know that a lot of this comes from a place of love, right? We don't want our kids to get hurt, and we don't want them to touch things that could potentially harm them. And we want to make sure that they are happy, and we want to make sure that they are fed, and we want to make sure that all of the things are in order for that child to have a great day or have a great week or have a great life. And so many of these behaviors came from a place of love, but they have programmed that child to be very fear oriented. So the reason why that is the case is between the ages of 0 and 7, our brains are in a state called theta. Now, just to go through what these different brain waves and states are, I'll give you a brief recap. When you are awake, like for instance, right now, I would be in what you would describe a beta brain wave state. Now, beta brain waves are very alert. They allow us to interact with each other, to interact with the world, to be able to make sure that I'm paying attention to any potential threats that could be coming in. So my scanning the environment, I'm also scanning my internal environment. And if I'm in communication with other people, I'm scanning their faces, I'm scanning their tone, I'm scanning all of the different aspects that can signal to me what's happening in this specific instance, in this specific environment. And so beta is a very functional brain wave state and allows us to really operate in the world seamlessly. The next state would be called alpha. And alpha is a highly creative state. And we know of this as the flow state, right? Alpha is where we are in a very interactive, but still mindless almost state where our body and our being and our brain is in one solid state, meaning we're not typically thinking about what we're doing. We're not analyzing what's happening. We are present. We are being. A lot of times when we watch professional sports and watch these incredible feats that happen on and off or on the field, we can see these athletes in a flow state. And you can tell that there's no thought. There's no thought between action or between when the player makes a decision to do something and the action. It's happening all at the same time. And that alpha state is a beautiful place, but we cannot typically stay there for extended periods of time. The next state would be delta. Now, in delta, we're typically sleeping, right? Delta is a place where a lot of rest, rejuvenation is going on, and our brain is operating in a very imaginative, very creative state, but it's really not a real productive place for our brain to be in the middle of the day. And that's why we're not typically in delta when we are in waking state, right? So we're not usually walking around the world in delta. If you are in delta and you're walking around, you're very likely sleepwalking. And then the next is theta. Now, theta is a very interesting state because physically we would be awake, but our brains are in a highly suggestible state. Now, between the ages of 0 and 7, as I had said earlier, our brain is in theta. So we're awake. We can be aware of what's happening, but we're highly suggestible. We're open to information and we're open to programming. And theta is where the subconscious mind is actually being highly engaged. So this is the state where our brain has the capacity to be programmed. And because we're in a theta brain state between the ages of 0 and 7, we're basically in hypnosis. And so what ends up happening is everything that's going on is being written into that program. And that is why we tend to find ourselves in such fear-based states in our adult lives, because of all of the fear that is going into that child's brain between the ages of 0 and 7. Again, just to keep that baby alive, the parent is highly, highly protective and using a lot of disempowering and very fearful emotions and words because they're worried about that child being able to function or being able to survive. So how do we deal with that, right? What is the solution to the fact that 95% of what we're doing in a day-to-day basis is a program that's being run that is entirely based on disempowering information and fear? Now, a lot of people who are in the entrepreneurial world will attest or resonate with the fact that when we are doing the work that we are trying to accomplish in our entrepreneurial feats, we tend to get very uncomfortable, right? For instance, if you are making cold calls and those cold calls aren't going well, your brain is going to start to deliver information not only to your mind, but it's going to deliver information to your body that's going to make you very, very uncomfortable. And it's doing that because it is seeking or getting that information from the subconscious that's telling you that what you are doing is potentially dangerous, right? Now, if you think about it and you zoom back a little bit, if you think about the entrepreneurial journey, it is dangerous, right? If we are not in a W-2 job where we have financial security, day-to-day security, where we feel that we're trading our time for dollars, if you're in an entrepreneurial environment, what ends up happening is you really don't know what is going to be available for you financially this month, maybe this week, or maybe even this day. And that is why entrepreneurship is such a difficult thing for people to do, because the subconscious mind finds a tremendous amount of threat from what we're doing when we are becoming or doing entrepreneurial things. And that's why you find so much resistance, not only from yourself, from your thoughts, from your body, but you're also getting all of this negativity from the people around you, because they're essentially in belief that what you're doing right now is highly dangerous and a threat to your survival. And at some level, they're right. When we are entrepreneurs, we don't know if we're going to make the bills this month. We don't know if we're going to be able to pay the mortgage sometimes. We don't realize or know where our next client is coming from, especially when we're first starting. And that is dangerous. That is a threat to our survival. And if we think about that in terms of our significant others or our spouses, that is a threat to the survival, not only of ourselves, but of our significant other and our potential children or our children that are alive. And this is the reason why we get such resistance when we do the work that we're doing as entrepreneurs, because it's a huge risk to our survival. And because of that, the program that's written in our brain is going to disempower us. And so when we're on these cold calls and having these conversations with people and things aren't going our way, that's when the negative thoughts start to cycle in and loop in. How many times have you been in a phone call with a real estate agent or a phone call with a homeowner and it didn't go well? And then your mind starts chattering and it starts telling you, maybe this isn't for you. Maybe this is not real. Did you ever think that that Jamil guy or that Pace Morby guy or that Brent Daniels or Jerry Norton might just be full of crap and that this is not a real business? Funny enough, I was sent some screenshots over the weekend from a friend of mine, Sharon, who is an AstroFlipping community member, who was actually DM'd by somebody who is in the community. And they were highly triggered, right? Triggered because they believed that there's this overarching fundamental hatred of wholesalers from real estate agents. So much so that everything that I'm saying, everything that I teach is garbage or BS. And that I was pulling the rug out from everybody and lying to thousands of people because at the end of the day, wholesaling can't work because real estate agents hate wholesalers. And this is the story. This is the victim story that this individual is living in. And I actually feel pretty bad for that person, because at the end of the day, that is their subconscious mind doing what it's supposed to be doing, trying to keep them alive, right? Trying to keep them fed. And it's really, really, really activated in that individual. And it wants that person to go back and get a job. That's exactly what's happening, right? It wants that person to go back and get a job. And so it is giving that individual everything that it needs, all of the information, the words, the fear, everything that it requires to convince it that trying to be an entrepreneur and trying to be a wholesaler or being in real estate investment at all is not only dangerous for them, but so much so that this person felt the need to reach out to other people to warn them of the dangers of wholesaling, because it's that dangerous. Now, again, a part of that is true, right? Not everybody makes it. Not everybody makes it who joins AstroFlipping, Sub2, Flipping Genius, or Flipping Mastery, or TTP, or anything else. Not everybody makes it, right? A lot of people succumb to that subconscious conversation. A lot of people succumb to the emotions of the fight or flight mechanism written into the program of our life. And there's really nothing that we can do about that. Nothing that I can do about that, unless that individual is willing to address the program and the operating system with which they're operating from. And so for all of you that get resistance, that feel that fear, and you have those negative, disempowering statements that find their way to the front of your mind on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis, understand that it really is just your brain trying to keep you alive. And it doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make your brain bad. It doesn't make the individual who sent the messages a bad person, or how they, think wrong or bad. It just makes them human. It just makes them a person with a brain doing what it's supposed to do. So we have to understand who we are and what we're trying to accomplish here, and be able to push through and overcome that danger, to overcome the program of that danger. Because at the end of the day, we all know that if we do persevere and get across through the other side of what we are trying to do here, that we gain our freedom, that we gain the ability to be masters of our own destiny, to be able to determine for ourselves what we earn, where we live, what we do with our hours on a day-to-day basis. That, to me, friends, is worth it. It's worth the discomfort. It's worth the pain. It's worth the potential conflict that I have, or that you could have, with family members and friends. Because at the end of the day, as a human being, I know that I'm not supposed to be chained to a desk, that there is joy in freedom. So today I'm going to give you 7 things that you can do to reprogram your subconscious mind. If you've ever experienced, and I'm sure you have, disempowering thoughts while you've been on this journey, one of these 7 or all of these 7 will absolutely help you get through it. So get your paper and pens ready, because I'm going to give you a list of things to do. All right. All right. Number 1, the first way that we can reprogram our subconscious mind is positive affirmations. And some of you guys might be saying, well, yeah, I've heard of that, or I do those, but they didn't really work on me. And here's probably the reason why. It takes 3 to 4 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks to rewrite the program with a positive affirmation. All right, 3 to 4 weeks of continuous, constant repetition for you to reprogram an underlying subconscious belief. So if your fear mechanism in your brain is telling you that you're not good at real estate, or that you're not an introvert, or that you are not an extrovert, that you are not a people person, there is a good chance that the program that's running in your mind is a lack of worthiness, or possibly a lack of skill, right? Or perceived skill. And so what we want to do is we want to override that belief. We want to override that limit. And by giving ourselves a positive affirmation, by telling ourselves that we are capable, that we are good at something that we may not have evidence of being good at yet, we are reprogramming into our operating system new code, new source code. And we all know that when we upgrade our operating system, just like you can upgrade the operating system of your phone, what happens when you do it after the bugs are fixed? It works different, right? Things are different. It looks different. It works different. Sometimes they're faster. A lot of times they're faster. And so through writing new source code into our subconscious, we will actually work different. We'll be different. But you have to do this for at least 3 to 4 weeks in order to see a result. Now, if you have ever, or if you are working with positive affirmations, I would love if you would put some of those positive affirmations in the chat. Let us share with you what some of your affirmations are. So if you have positive affirmations that you're using right now, put them in the chat so that we can see those. Number 2, visualization at a granular level, right? Granular visualization. So what does that mean? Granular visualization. Visualization is one of the most powerful techniques to reprogram the subconscious mind. And if we do it correctly, meaning we engage as many of our 5 senses in that visualization process, we can reprogram our subconscious mind to a new reality, almost to a level where our body is tricked into thinking it's there. So let's imagine your life at the pinnacle of your success, right? What does it look like? I want you to write these descriptions down, because this will be the mental picture that you should be visualizing when you wake up and before you go to bed each night. What does life look like at the pinnacle of your success? Where do you live? What do you see? What do you hear? What does it smell like? What can you touch? What is the temperature? What are you wearing? Who are you with? When these details are described and filled in, we provide ourselves a tapestry, a rich tapestry of visuals and images that let our body feel as if the result has already transpired. And the resulting emotional change will floor you. Now, if you can stay in that state for 10 to 15 minutes twice a day for 3 to 4 weeks, you will be shocked at how different your life will be at the end of that time. Number 3, hypnosis. Yes, and you can even use self-hypnosis. Now, why hypnosis is so powerful is when we get into the theta waves, or the theta wave cycle of our brain, we are open, highly open and suggestible. And essentially, we are hitting reset on our subconscious program. And it gives you the opportunity to rewrite a new program into your mind. Now, be very careful that the individuals that you're working with in hypnosis are there for you for your benefit, because you can also be hypnotized or programmed into disempowering and harmful behavior. Now, if any of you have ever gone to a hypnotist show, they're pretty funny and pretty scary, right? I watched a group of 15 individuals turn themselves into prostitutes on a stage once. And I thought to myself, what would happen if that subconscious program ended up bleeding out into these people's lives? Now, the hypnotists that are doing that and using that for entertainment purposes are not really aware, or if they are, highly irresponsible in suggesting these really terrible choices and behaviors. And so going to a live hypnotist show that is being put on for the benefit and entertainment of everybody's in the audience is probably one of the worst ways that we can reprogram our subconscious mind. So I would highly recommend staying away from an entertainment hypnotist. But if you have access to a hypnotist in your hometown, or you can even use self-hypnosis techniques, many of these videos are available on YouTube. You can reprogram your subconscious mind for empowered behavior. Empowered behavior. Number 4, subliminal audio and video messaging. Now, here is where a lot of, I believe, societal's problems are finding their way into the collective and into the collective unconscious. If you take a look at a lot of the music that is being listened to currently, there is subliminal, subconscious, disempowering, violent, and divisive ideas that are being implanted into highly suggestible mind states. Now, if you can see right there, I'm a fan of gangster rap. I love it. But I have to admit that a lot of the messaging in it, especially these days, is not to our benefit. It's to our detriment, especially for young people and our children. Now, I can tell you that this programming is so strong that even I, after all of the years of work that I've done on myself, can find my inner Tupac finding its way out to the surface. In fact, just the other day, I was triggered in an online situation where an individual had some unkind words for a friend of mine. And it triggered me. It triggered me into becoming unconscious and allowing all of the music that I listened to in the mid 90s and early 2000s to find their way back to the surface of my experience. And after going unconscious for a couple of hours and after coming back up for air, I realized, holy moly, Tupac came back and Tupac lives in me in this moment as I sit here on my phone and I'm completely losing my mind, letting myself get triggered and go unconscious. And so it is very, 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 very powerful, right? Very powerful. And so I want to remind us that it's important that we take note of the information that we're putting in to our minds, because if it is going to be damaging information, we have to bear responsibility for its effects. And the same thing is happening with the television that we watch. If we're watching television that is suggesting behavior or ways of being that are not to our betterment, we are programming ourselves with disempowering visuals that will find their way to the surface of our day and affect how we live our day-to-day lives. So it's important that we are monitoring the information that we're consuming, whether that be for entertainment purposes or whether that be for educational purposes. What you do with your mind and what you do with your time is extremely important. So pay attention to the music you're listening to. Pay attention to the TV shows you're watching. And if you are watching television or listening to music that is not to your benefit, you may want to evaluate that. Number 5, one of my favorites, meditation. Meditation is one of those incredible ways for us to drop ourselves into a theta brainwave state. Many of you guys have heard of me talk about one of my mentors, Joe Dispenza, whose meditation retreats I go on typically 4 times a year. And I go on these retreats for a week at a time. And as I'm there, I am reprogramming my subconscious mind. And I can tell you from retreat after retreat, even though many of these retreats are very similar to each other, I'm going in a different person each time. Because every time I leave one of these 7-day meditation retreats, I've reprogrammed my subconscious mind at a high level. And the beauty of that is I am writing in a program that is pushing me towards self-actualization. Unfortunately, for entrepreneurs, the Dispenza meditation techniques are so broad that as you're in those meditations, especially if you are trying to reprogram your subconscious mind for abundance and wealth, you might need something a little bit more specialized. And before we end today's hour, I'm going to give you guys information on a new retreat that I would love to share with you guys that will be geared towards the entrepreneur and geared towards people just like you, people just like me, who are working towards financial abundance and wealth creation in our lives, can use all of these techniques specifically for writing in a new program for wealth and abundance in our day-to-day. Now, these meditation techniques, when used correctly, can reprogram the mind at the deepest level of the subconscious. And when we are looking for opportunities or trying to attract opportunities into our day for abundance and wealth creation, we will be able to actually see the synchronicities in an extremely rapid succession. If you've ever had an experience where you thought about a specific person and then moments later that person calls you, that's the type of synchronicity you can have in your life when it comes to abundance, when it comes to wealth creation. We just have to be able to understand how to write that source code. Now, looking at my life, I can tell you I have figured out at least that aspect of source code. Now, I'm not going to tell you or pretend to say that I am a highly or a fully realized spiritual master. By no means am I. But when it comes to the world of wealth creation, when it comes to the world of financial abundance, I have done a tremendous amount of work. And through specific types of meditation techniques and practices, I've been able to reprogram my subconscious mind for wealth, for abundance. And I'm so excited to share that with all of you. Number 6, good old-fashioned practice. Practice. That's the hard part, right? Because so many of us have to push through the uncomfort of the fight or flight mechanism in our body in order to practice, right? Think about it. If your brain believes that what you are doing as an entrepreneur is dangerous, that it is potentially a threat to your survival, then your body will produce specific stress chemicals that will signal into your body a stress response that will make that work highly uncomfortable. if you've ever, again, experienced a tremendous amount of discomfort from making cold calls, or if you've ever been or felt a tremendous amount of discomfort from attending a networking event, if you have ever experienced a tremendous amount of pain or a discomfort by having to pick up the phone and talk to a real estate agent, then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. This stress response is typically begins its cascade through a hormone called cortisol. And that hormone then also upregulates the release of noradrenaline and epinephrine in our body. And those chemicals will put us into a state of fight or flight. Typically, what ends up happening is our heart rates rapidly increase, and we start to see blood flow leave our digestive areas of our body and get to our extremities, much as if we are being chased by a T-Rex. Now, think about that. When you're making cold calls to homeowners or real estate agents or whoever it is that you're talking to, or door knocking, let's just say if you're a door knocker trying to get pre-foreclosures or whatever that is, that physical response that you get right before making that call, and many of you will have an experience of this, where right when you're calling a homeowner, or right when the phone is ringing for real estate agents, or right when you're walking up to that door to knock it, you start to feel your heart in your throat. How many of you guys have felt that? I have. What's really interesting is you can feel that if you are out of practice, right? So even though I am and have done over 7,000 of these wholesale transactions, I got out of practice on calling real estate agents for a little bit of time before I started coaching and teaching again, because my company grew so large, I wasn't on the phones any longer, right? And so when I had to get back on the phones so that I could work with my AstroFlipping community, it reminded me of how difficult those calls can be. And before I started picking up the phone, especially doing it on a live stream, I could feel my heart in my throat. It was insane how scared I felt just from a phone call. There was no death. There was no T-Rex waiting for me on the other end of that line. It was just a real estate agent. It was just a homeowner. It was just a person in pre-foreclosure right before I was about to knock their door. Nothing was a threat. Nothing bad was going to happen. Yet my body felt as if I was about to physically be harmed. Now, if we can push through those really uncomfortable physiological responses of fight or flight and rewire our brains with practice, we can change the program of the subconscious mind. And number 7, suggestion or therapeutic work like EMDR. EMDR, if you have not worked on with a therapist, is a very, very powerful technique where you will get yourself into a suggestive state, a theta brainwave state, and you will revisit past trauma or traumatic situations that you might be facing. So you not only can do EMDR to heal your inner child, you can do EMDR to heal the scaredy cat that lives in you right before you talk to a homeowner. So the same techniques that you're using in therapy to help you get over past trauma in life can actually help you get over the trauma that happens when you are doing the work we do as entrepreneurs in real estate. Now, guys, this doesn't only work for people in the world of real estate. This works for anyone that's in the entrepreneurial space. And so I'm using these techniques in my own day-to-day life. But what I'm going to be doing in the next couple of months is getting together a small group of 20 of you for a weekend of subconscious reprogramming. So if you have are dealing with any of these subconscious blocks, if life is continuously finding ways to knock you off the horse, if disempowering thoughts, if this fear, this fight or flight fear is something that is crippling you in your life right now, and if you have interest in joining me on a week end of reprogramming our subconscious minds for wealth and abundance, I'm going to be putting an email in the chat, and I would love for you to send an email to my team, and we'll reach out to you with details on what that'll look like. All right. I'm going to also be putting in a link in the chat to jump in if any of you guys have questions about this. But first, I'm going to put that email in the chat. All right. So the email is damgmedia@gmail.com. And I want you to put in the subject line, subconscious retreat. All right. Subconscious retreat. There is the email, damgmedia@gmail.com. And in the subject line, write subconscious retreat. Again, this is not for everybody. It will be for at most 20 of you, because it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to be a lot of one-on-one, a lot of really, 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 really deep subconscious work. And so it won't work in a larger group. It will only work in a smaller group setting. So about 20 of you will be able to join me on this incredible journey. My goal would be to do this multiple times a year, but the first one will be in November. It'll be the dates November 8th to 11th. So 11/8 to 11/11. How auspicious. Okay, I'm going to be putting in a link in the chat. If you have any questions about reprogramming your subconscious mind, I'd love to hear from you. It will be in Arizona, correct? It will be in AZ. So 11/8 to 11/11. Send an email to damgmedia@gmail.com. And in the subject line, write subconscious retreat. And I've also put a link in the chat for the StreamYard. For any of you who have a question about what we went over today, if you'd like to come on and chat with me, happy to chat, happy to talk. Don't be shy. Come on back. So yeah, these retreats, just to give you guys a little bit more information. I love the work that I get to do with Joe Dispenza, and it's so powerful. And I always wish when I'm there that they could be more focused towards the things that I care about, right? Which is abundance, which is wealth creation. And that's a real thing. I mean, for any of us that are entrepreneurs, that's what we're chasing, right? We want more success. We are trying to impact more people. We are trying to better our lives in that way. And not all of us have the same goals as the large audience of people that Mr. Dispenza gets to attract. And so that work tends to focus in different areas where, for me as an entrepreneur, I'm really interested in concentrating that work towards entrepreneurial pursuits. Well, looks like we've got Sharon Smith coming up. Hello, Sharon.
Oh, hey.
Oh, hold on. Let me get my ears in. How are you?
Good. How are you? Can you hear me okay?
I'm doing phenomenal. Yeah.
Can you hear me still?
I hear you great.
No, I can't hear you. Okay. I know that you recommend Joe Dispenza content a lot for learning meditation practices and those type of things. Do you have anyone that you recommend for EMDR content learning?
I don't. Not at this time right now. The individual that I work with is a local therapist, but I haven't yet to find one that I would say would be good for online work. But I will get some recommendations. So good question.
Okay, nice.
Actually, we will have an EMDR practitioner with us at the retreat in November. So part of what we'll be doing in that work will be getting ourselves in that spot. But before then, I'll find you a solution for that so that you can do some work
Cool.
prior to that time.
Yeah. Yeah, because like I see a lot of things, but like I don't know what to trust. So,
Yeah,
and that type of work is sensitive or can be. And certainly
100%.
history is like my own.
Yep.
So, okay. All right, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. How has your week been?
Pretty amazing. I closed a deal on Monday. I had an awesome walkthrough with a deal in Richmond yesterday, and just connected really well with the seller who was on site. She has gone through a whole lot of tragedy and things, and so we sat there and talked for like a good 2 hours. And so it's going to be a beautiful thing to be able to help that person out. So it just was a beautiful resonation of experience. So that's all.
Look at you go. Look at you go.
Yeah.
I love you, sister.
I love you back.
Hey, and by the way, thank you for sending me that those screenshots, because to be honest with you, I've got a lot of compassion for that individual and
I know
what they're going through, and I wanted to, and it actually helped me in today's work, because I was really wanting to get to the bottom of, what's the trigger to that, right? What's the cause of that? And again, at the end of the day, it's a survival instinct, right? It's survival mechanism.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the first question I asked them, like they're like, oh, what agents hate us, hate wholesalers. Well, how many agents have you called? Right? Like, what have you? Right? Because like at the end of the day, last week, the deal I was talking to you about on our other call with the $2.1 million development deal, like an agent that I don't know, that I've never called me out of the blue because she knew my reputation in my market and knew I could get this deal done for her. That is not an agent that thinks badly of wholesalers. You know what I mean? Like
right.
And so like the mindset that person is going through is just this victimhood thing. And
and it's okay.
And I do feel bad for them. I'm like, I tried, and then just
sometimes it just takes a little bit more work, but I appreciate it. And I'm actually going to reach out to them offline to see if there's anything that I can do to help, kind of bring them through. But I love you, and I'm grateful for you always.
Thank you.
Bye, love. All right. What's going on, my man?
Yo, what's up, Jamil?
How you doing, brother?
Good. I just had a question. Like, I know when you said you started wholesaling in Canada, did you have all these things for your mindset? Like, did you know about all this stuff, or were you just working off just pure hustle with drilling?
So, very, very great question. So I was on the journey, but I was very, very early on. And, in full transparency, I did get my start in wholesaling in Canada, and I also lost and crashed and burned, and I lost everything there. And I will be even more transparent and say that some of the ways that I was operating as a business person in my earlier days wasn't the best. I didn't have a positive orientation. I wasn't in a service to others mentality. I didn't come from a place of giving and abundance. I came from a place of lack and scarcity. And a lot of the decisions that I made and the results that ensued, many people can blame the financial crisis of 2008 for their downfall. Now, I can tell you that it contributed to the situation that I was in, but it wasn't the wholehearted reason why everything went to crap for me when I lost $12 million. Right? I was coming from a place of lack. Now I understood manifestation of wealth, but I had no idea how to keep it. And because the way that I was operating was from a state of lack, from a state of fear, the money left as quickly as it came in. And if I look at the way that I live today and how I've been able to not only grow, but retain what I've been able to make, and then share that with other people, the results are dramatically different.
Okay, cool. Thank you, brother. And just also, like, how many, like, in your journey right now, like, how many hours do you put in your day to yourself, just with the affirmations, the meditations, and all that? Because I know you're busy. Like,
Yeah. So it's gotten a lot more these as I've, become more successful and my life has gotten bigger. Typically, it's about 4 hours a day of
okay,
this work. And I wake up very early, so I start early in the morning in this work, and again before I go to sleep at night, I'm still doing the work. And what's really interesting is even throughout the rest of my day, whenever there's a small break, I'm back to it. And so it's become the underlying theme of what happens in my world on a moment to moment basis. And so concentrated wise, about 4 hours, but it's weaved in through the entire day. And because I'm doing it before I go to sleep, even while I'm asleep.
okay.
It's pretty incredible. And this is the stuff that we'll be working on in the retreat, or at the retreat in November.
Okay.
We'll be really diving into making this type of programming a full day, a 24-hour program that runs in the background of your life, right? I think in order to achieve the kind of financial independence that we need in the modern world, that's the kind of work we need to do in order to get there.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Jamil. I appreciate it. Just out of all the big guys, you're at my top of my list. Thanks for everything. And
Thank you, brother.
thank you that you just make this free and everything like that, and just give tips and everything to people. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah. Have a great one, bro.
Thank you, brother. God bless you. All right, friends. Well, I have no one left backstage. Oh, I do. No, I don't. And so that will be this Sunday's call. Now, for those of you that are in the AstroFlipping community, I'll see you on the AstroFlipping Q&A in about 3 minutes. And for the rest of you, I hope that you guys have a beautiful week, that you see yourself as an incredible being, that you have so much power in, that you've got divinity within you and the ability to make the most incredible life that you could ever want. And if you are at all interested in joining me in helping you rewrite some of the source code that you're operating on, I'd love to see you with us in November. So send an email to damgmedia@gmail.com, and in the subject line, write subconscious retreat, and we'll see you then. See you guys next Sunday. God bless you. Love you.